This Sunday, AEW present their next pay-per-view All Out live from the Now Arena just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Whilst the card is stacked full of big matches, there remains a few opportunities that could lead to some surprises along the way. Whether it be the final entrant in the Casino Battle Royale, the supposed mystery opponent for Andrade El Idolo, or perhaps the chance of some debuts elsewhere, as AEW continue to have us guessing as to who could show up next. So in today's video, let's look at some potential surprise appearances at AEW All Out 2021. And before we get into it, if you're looking to buy the pay-per-view, make sure you do so using our Fight affiliate link, where you can get it for just $19.99 in certain countries. So first, let's get to a possible surprise that isn't related to the two matches mentioned before. Miro is set to defend his AEW TNT Championship against Eddie Kingston, and last week on Dynamite, I noticed what may have been a subtle tease that God's favourite champion had company during one of his backstage promos. Whilst cutting a promo, Miro then looked away behind the camera as if someone was there, this whilst expressing his love for his wife. His wife, of course, is CJ Perry, better known as Lana in WWE. She was recently released from WWE in early June, and her non-compete clause expired on August 31st, meaning she is now free to appear for another promotion. Was this a subtle hint from Miro suggesting that she was with him and is set to join him on screen? It's certainly possible, and there's a chance that we could be set to see the reunion of the former Rusev and Lana, with CJ guiding her monstrous husband Miro to the ring once again. The next one isn't a debut, but it involves Andrade El Idolo, who is currently without an opponent. He was scheduled to take on Pac at the pay-per-view, but the match was cancelled due to supposed travel issues, with Pac said to be stuck in the UK. This led to Andrade to take to Twitter to tease that he will be wrestling a mystery opponent, but what if this is just part of the storyline? A few weeks ago on Dynamite, if you remember, Andrade intercepted Rey Fenix and Penta's travel to the arena, causing them to be late for the show. Instead, Andrade booked them a limo in an attempt to recruit them away from Pac's Death Triangle to his own entourage. Maybe Andrade is up to his old tricks, cancelling Pac's travel as to win the match by default. This could lead to Andrade demanding that the match be started, initiating a countout before Pac shows up at the last second to kick off the match. Next, let's discuss some candidates for the Women's Casino Battle Royale, with the victor facing the winner of the AEW Women's World Championship match later in the night between Britt Baker and Chris Statlander at a future date. The match will see 21 women battle it out, with all but one of the participants being revealed. The mystery competitor will be the final entrant for the match, entering as the Joker of the Pack. Whilst we'll get to the most likely candidate later in the video, it could also be one of the two members of the Inspiration who announced a return to pro wrestling just last week. Formerly known as the Iconics, the duo were released from WWE in April, with their non-compete clause ending in mid-July. Despite this, the Aussie tag team have had some issues getting visas in the United States, which prevented them from working shows, but it appears that their problems have now been resolved. Whilst they said this process could take years, this fast turnaround suggests to me that they have gained a large sponsor, either in the form of Impact Wrestling or AEW, allowing them to work again. Could one half of the pair debut as the Joker, with the other one assisting at ringside? I think it's entirely possible. Ever since his release from WWE last month, reports have stated that 16-time world champion Ric Flair is AEW bound. Flair has made 2 appearances since his WWE departure, first accompanying son-in-law Andrade to the ring at Triple Mania for his match against Kenny Omega, as well as showing up at the NWA 23rd anniversary show as a guest of honor. Flair could join fellow Four Horsemen Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard as a manager in AEW, potentially to join Andrade's entourage, adding to the Idol's lavish presentation. Flair also featured in a video posted to social media where he joined Orange Cassidy before a brief interaction between the two, and this appeared to be filmed backstage at AEW Dynamite in Chicago. He's in the area, and if Andrade doesn't end up with an opponent for the show, perhaps he could accompany Orange Cassidy and his team to the ring for the 8-man tag match on the buy-in show. For this next surprise, let's go back to the Andrade situation from earlier in the video. If Pac is indeed off the show and Andrade is getting a new opponent as teased, who better than now free agent Adam Cole? Cole's WWE contract expired last week after his final NXT match against Kyle O'Reilly at NXT TakeOver 36. His contract did expire in July, but he signed a short extension to see him through to the TakeOver event. He is now free to sign wherever he pleases, with many anticipating his AEW debut, joining his friends in the Elite and his girlfriend Britt Baker. Cole was part of the Being the Elite show before AEW even existed, and was jokingly killed off when he signed with WWE in 2017. Over the past couple of weeks, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks have teased a resurrection of Cole's spirit, seemingly referring to him being signed with AEW. If Pac truly is stuck and Andrade needs someone to face, why not have Andrade beat Pac by countout using the angle that we talked about earlier? Let's have Cole show up after the bell, with Andrade receiving a real matchup. If not a match with Andrade, let's get him involved with the Lucha Brothers Young Bucks tag title match later in the night, realigning himself with the Elite. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. Now let's go back to the Casino Battle Royale. And for those that caught my predictions video, which if you haven't watched already, make sure you do so after this video, but if you did, you'll know my guess for who will be the final entrant in the match. Ruby Soho, formerly known as Ruby Riott in WWE, has been releasing a series of videos on her social media to build to her return to wrestling following her WWE release in June. Again, much like Lana, her non-compete clause ended on August 31st, with reports stating that she is set to become All Elite. Before the final entrant comes out, I expect to see the final video of the series as Soho makes her way from New York to Chicago, making her AEW debut. The production values and the creativity behind the teasers have been excellent so far, and punk rock Ruby has a ton of potential. She'll likely use the rancid song Ruby Soho as her entrance music, the song that she is in fact named after, which will make her debut even more special. And the next surprise needs a huge disclaimer ahead of time, as I think the chances of this one is slim to none, and if I had to put a number on it, I'd say perhaps 2%. But ever since the return of CM Punk to professional wrestling, many have called for the unlikely return of AJ Lee, who just so happens to be Punk's wife. Much like Punk, AJ has been retired for a number of years. She stated in her book that she left wrestling due to feeling like she achieved all that she could in the business, as well as feeling stuck in the middle of the heat between Punk and WWE. Most significantly though, she said she left due to what she described as a permanent neck injury. Whilst this likely rules her out of an in-ring return, it wouldn't be the first time somebody has returned from a seemingly career-ending injury. Edge recently came back to wrestling after 9 years away, after he was told he wouldn't be able to wrestle again. Also, Paige is said to be working on an in-ring return after she was forced to retire due to neck injuries. The key here though is if AJ has been looking to make a recovery, and that's if it's even possible. As I say, I don't think it will happen, nor should it if there is any risk involved, but we can all dream. Who better to be the Joker in the Casino Battle Royale than AJ? And finally, we enter the final countdown as we head towards the AEW debut of the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. According to reliable sources, the same sources that revealed the CM Punk debut, Bryan will be there this Sunday. The surprise was originally going to be saved for the AEW Dynamite Grand Slam edition at the Arthur-Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. Due to concerns over the status of the event, AEW have pushed the debut forward to ensure that it happens in front of a packed out crowd. Whilst it won't be a surprise, the way he debuts will be. If I had to guess though, again as covered in my predictions video, I can see Kenny Omega ending the show as AEW World Champion after overcoming the challenge of Christian Cage in the main event. This would lead to one of the ultimate face-offs possible in modern wrestling between the American Dragon and the Best Bout Machine, a dream match for the ages. This would then set up the story of Bryan climbing the AEW rankings week in, week out to get his shot. Perhaps he is is also a candidate to be Andrade's opponent, but a confrontation with Omega would be so much more special. And make sure you check out my video where I discuss 10 times that AEW wrestlers rejected WWE, including Bryan Danielson and the Elite.